What's up, guys? This is going to be a little bit different of a video for my YouTube comeback, I suppose you could say, because I haven't posted anything in like 10 months or so. But anyways, this is going to be basically a build compilation video of the Duramax project, well, the 67 Duramax project. And yeah, basically going to compile all of my YouTube videos into one, plus some stuff that is new, because obviously I've been driving the thing for just about a year now. And I haven't really shared that with you guys yet. So, here we go. Now, unfortunately, I did not start YouTube at the beginning of this project because, as you can see from my first YouTube video, I have a significant amount of work done already. The frame has been cut 26 inches to shorten the crew cab standard bed chassis length to match with the regular cab long box from the 67. As you can see, I also no longer have the IFS system in this from the 2002 Duramax that I used for the donor vehicle. It is in fact a Ford Super Duty axle that was swapped in there using the WFO 3-inch kit for the Duramax chassis. I also got the engine all repaired and painted up and dropped back into the chassis, and from here we're basically ready to just drop the cab on. What's up, everybody? Today's goal is to relume the engine harness with some Tech Flex, because the old stuff has just gotten hard, brittle, and cracks when you try and take it apart. Also going to try and shave the firewall heater box opening. So here's where we're at with the old wiring harness. Got all the old brittle cracked loom off. Started putting some of this Tech Flex on. So we got a little bit more work to do on this area yet. We got all these little holes that were used for mounting the heater box onto the firewall here, as well as this little hole. Then we got to come in here, fill in all these, and not going to work on this area just yet. Not 100% sure what all I need to remove. So I mounted the brake pedal in here. Got to do a little bit of work to this to move it over. But right now it's just mounted up in the factory location for the 67 brake pedal. Okay, so here is the factory brake pedal from the 67 next to the one from the Duramax. And as you can see, this one's offset quite a bit more than this one. Now I've already modified the steering column mount to accept this smaller diameter shaft. And my next step is going to be cutting about right here, then moving that and welding it on this side. And also, if you notice, this one's offset a little bit. This one's offset quite a bit. So I'm also going to take and heat right here and right here and kind of straighten that. Plan is going to somewhat work. This is about 4 or 5 inches away from the firewall yet when I get it into place, and I'm having issues with all of this right here. Mostly this part right here wants to hit this section, so I'm going to take and cut along here to clearance for that, and then I'll just take and weld in some sheet metal around that to reinforce it again. Alright, so this is roughly where it's going to sit, hopefully. I gotta get a seat in here and make sure it's not protruding too far out into the cab to be comfortable. Alright, so I got the seat fitted in. We're just test setting it here for our driver here, Gus. Anyways, it's about roughly at the dash. I gotta cut a little more back in there to get this to sit farther back. Then I'll build a whole custom mount for the gauge cluster that sinks in here. But I think we got good clearance for the steering wheel to seat. The brake pedal, I got a clock. I'll have to cut the mount off for the shift cable. Clock it a little bit differently so we can get some more motion with the brake pedal. And then for the gas pedal, should be able to weld some tabs onto the firewall there and be able to just bolt it right in there. Alright, so this is what we've got so far. I ended up welding a couple of washers on where the original brake pedal was mounted to, so it would work with the smaller diameter bolt and sleeve. I ended up just cutting this piece completely out of here so that I can mount the gauge cluster back a little farther. And then if we come under here, what I'm going to be trying to do is make a bracket that bolts in right here and right here that is welded onto the steering column. And also still got to clock this. I know this looks nice and loose and floppy in here. That's just because I don't have any washers in there or the bushing on it. Okay, so this is what I came up with for the steering column mount. I'm just going to take a couple of small vice grips, clamp it up into place, and then I'll be able to tack weld it in. I've got the cable bracket cut off and reclocked. I'll finish welding that into place when I pull the steering column out to weld this bracket. Had to notch this. It's just a rough cut right now. That'll also get cleaned up when I have it out to weld. And still got a cut right there so that the shift arm can clear. Now, a plate made for the steering column. These two bolts go right to the mount, and then these ones just bolt through the firewall. So basically it sandwiches itself and it gives it some extra strength. Now I'm currently working on building a new plate for the brake booster. And basically all I did to do this was take a piece of cardboard, held it up there, knocked it with a hammer to make some marks, drilled the holes in there, figured out my center points, between the two holes, popped a hole in there and lined them up with this line so I could mark for these holes. Brake booster. I know I said I wasn't going to do this until I had this sitting on the chassis again, but I got to thinking about it. First time I was test fitting the cab on the chassis, the vacuum booster was still bolted onto the firewall, and that cleared everything just fine. So if this big boy cleared, I'm pretty sure that's going to. If we go up under here, there's the new steering column mount. Then we got the new, or the mount for the gas pedal. Right now, I just have the C channel in the back tacked in there to see if it would work. And then I don't know if you can see this real well, but I extended the shaft on the brake booster to meet up with the pedal. So yeah. Oh, also I removed the mounts that used to be bolted into these two holes on each side to get the seat to sit a little flatter, and it sits in there much better than before now. I'm just getting ready to start cutting off the drip rail to shave it. I've already cut it every 6 inches or so. Next step is going to be to come in from the other side here, cut off wheel, and just start cutting it off. Just try and do this 6 inches at a time so it doesn't get too spread apart. Wiped it down with wax and grease remover. Got this patch panel down here, filled in with some seam sealer, filled in a bunch of the old holes, just some square pieces of metal. These are from where previous owner mounted some Ford seats. But anyways, we're ready to start painting most of it with Duplicolor Rust Bear. Started on the pickup box. We got one box side off right now. And then underneath here, see if I can get a good view at it. We got it channeled into the cross members that go over the frame. And then on the front, I actually had to go all the way across on them. Basically to clear the fuel tank and a cross member that's in the way on the chassis side. So I'm going to end up welding a 1 inch by 1.5 inch squared tubing in there. And then to get the rest of the gap filled in, when I go to mount the pickup box back on there, we're going to move all of the points up about 3 inches. So the bed floor will be raised 3 inches on the when it's done. Box side off the passenger side. And I had to fight with the bolts, nuts and bolts, and I got maybe 5 of them out of all of these that didn't require cutting or torching them off. So today, to get this side off, I'm just going to take the torch and blow the heads off all the bolts and knock them through. Look at that. Finally got what looks like a complete pickup again. Got the box side mocked up. Right now the bed floor is tacked onto the frame. I did that just so it wouldn't shift while I was trying to mock up the bed sides. And I got the height set. And obviously the box needs to be shifted forward a little bit yet. And then shifted towards the passenger side a little bit. You can kind of tell on the camera here. Sticks out a little bit on the side. It's a little accentuated because this isn't tight yet. I just got it tacked on. A couple tacks here. One down here where I had to do the cut. Same on the other side. No front piece in the box yet because I'm waiting on a new one to come from LMC. So the box is back off again. Plan is to clean up where I had all the tack welds on there, obviously. Take off the cab mounts on both sides of the frame because those aren't needed anymore. I got to clean up where I torched the hangers to clearance the box. This cross member will be coming out, and I'll just be putting a piece of tubing across there to remount the shock here. I'm going to drop the gas tank, And then on both sides from here to here, I'm going to weld in a piece of angle iron because the front one lines up perfectly with the front mount on the box, but the second mount ends up roughly right here. And once that's all done, we come in and paint the front. I got the chassis stripped down and ready to be sandblasted. The spare tire cross members out. The hanger brackets are out or off. And then still got that to cut off. For the hanger brackets, I'm going to take and sandblast these tonight. Sandblast most of the frame. I need to at least get this part in rust barrier and these in rust barrier so that I can get them bolted back on. I'm gonna run to town in the morning and get grade 8 bolts to do it with. And that way I can get it put back together enough to roll around again. All cleaned up and ready for duplicolor. We got the front cab mounts done and ripped off, smoothed out. Spare tire cross members out. Got the leaf hangers bolted back up and painted on both sides. The next step is going to be putting in some heavy square tubing in place of the spare tire All right, last night we finished up working on the frame. Got it cleaned up, put a couple coats of paint on there. And today, I'm gonna install new shackles and new leaf springs. The shackles I bought a pair of Celastic shock absorbers. And these should soften up the ride on the heavy duty a little bit. And then we got new leaf springs over here. And you can tell that is definitely bent. Alright, so yesterday, tried to bend the axle back into shape. That was a massive failure, as you can see. Didn't really have high hopes for it working because it was bent right at the spindle, so I didn't really want to use heat and mess up the bearing surfaces. But it cracked, so I guess I'm looking for an axle now. Well, we got the first coat of paint on the axle. Well, I'm letting that dry. I'm gonna come over here and open up this box. All right, there it is, some 2.5 Fox coilovers with 800-pound springs. This is from WFO themselves, which was the kit I used for putting the straight axle in. And it's specifically valved for being underneath the Duramax. Alright, we're getting ready to put the new axle in. Alright, so before we get ready for primer, got a few things I need to finish up on here yet. I gotta come in and resand all this yet, so that we can do epoxy primer, then the high fill 2K primer, then we can sand everything again. Also, I gotta get the rear cab mounts finished up before we go that far. And back here, I need to get the box welded up. But other than that, I think I've got all the exterior panels sanded up to where I want them. And yeah, let's get after it. Alright, the bed is welded up. Obviously still got to come in and do something about the bolt holes all the way around. But I think all I'm going to do is take a piece of metal like this, lay it down in there, do a couple stitch welds like I did on the box side, then I'll come in and seam seal all the way around. And the bed is getting bed lined, so it doesn't have to look perfect. Well, we got it sitting on the cart and it didn't collapse, so I guess that's a good thing. Next, I gotta get some stuff rearranged here. And we can push this back into the lift. Pull the cab up, and I gotta finish up the rear mounts. So I'm just about ready to take the cab off again. But before I lift the cab, I'm gonna take a punch and go in from underneath and mark where I need to drill my hole for the cab mount. And it'll be mounted into the main cab structure in the back there. Okay, so here's what I did for body mounts. So the original, let's see, where the original cab mounts go in here for the front. So I welded in, this is some pretty heavy stuff, into the main frame here. And this mounts onto these on the frame, on the chassis, which these are just the old cab mounts. They used to be up here. I cut them off and moved them so that they'd work better. And I was originally going to go through the original holes, but that would have wound up like right here. And it would have been a pain in the ass with all the brake lines and everything. So yeah. And then also I wouldn't have been able to run the wiring harness where it's going to be ran. And the rear ones just mount on here, obviously. This one actually ends up going through the original body mount on the 67 cab. And that one I wound up off by just a little bit, so I just re-drilled the hole on the cab side, and I'm going to move the mount over. Just got done with the third coat of the high build 2K primer. Pretty happy with how it turned out. All of this stuff is pretty much ready to go. I did see one spot on the door here. See if I can get it to pick up on camera. There's a little spot here that it might sand out with the when I sand the primer. If not, I'll have to come in and do a little touch up there. Like I said, all this stuff is good. That one had a spot getting fixed on it from last time I sprayed it. The cab, I still got some work to do. I'm happy with how this body line turned out. But if you come look, I gotta clean this up a little bit. Do a little work right there. And it's gonna be hard to get on camera, but I'm gonna take and do some work all the way along this edge from shaving. This is all stuff from shaving the drip rail. I'm gonna come in and clean it up a little better. Thought I had it this time, but we got a little spot right here. But the rest of it turned out pretty good, I think. All right, so while I was waiting to get all this stuff painted, because I had other stuff in here, in my downtime I was working on the fuel system. I'll show you guys what I've come up with. So this is just dash 10 line coming off of here, which is slightly bigger than 1/2 inch hose. Running through, comes to the pump. And I got the reason I don't have this hooked up yet is because I'm gonna need a different fitting here because this is touching the frame rail. So I'm gonna put a 45 in here to kind of angle that down. And that'll get done. So inlet, and then this supplies, runs up to all the way up into there, onto that first line on the Fickum. And I got waiting on a few clamps and stuff to be able to clamp it down. And then the return line, also waiting on a fitting to hook it up to here, similar to what's on the return for the tank. I need one of them for here. Runs down, and let's see if we can get in here. I've got a T here for the return line. So this is a check valve here, and then it comes into a T. So the return keeps flowing back to the tank, and then the return off the pump comes in. Can't go back that way, it has to go this way to the tank, return into the tank. And I don't have it tight yet, so I'll show you what I got going on inside here. Maybe. I was messing with the wiring too. I ran it all inside the the frame rail to the back here. Alright, so this is what I got. Used a 90-degree -10 bulkhead fitting. So it's just got a screw on the other side and then sealed with nylon washers. Another -10 line. And then I got another -10 bulkhead fitting on the bottom here. And that's just bolted into a stainless steel plate that I made that wedges in here. And then the little tab sticks out of the out here to keep it locked in place. And when this is in the tank, that should be about 1/4 inch off the bottom, roughly. And I'm a little worried that with this setup, I might run into picking up air with the fuel sloshing around in here. But we did put a universal fast sump kit on a Buddy's LBZ. Not sump, pickup tube. So you just drill a hole in here and it goes down in. And it's just a 5/8 pickup or draw straw that picks up off the bottom of the tank. He hasn't had any issues, so I'm hoping I don't have any issues. And then, yes, this is just, I just welded the main part of the fast bracketry onto the frame here. And the whole reason I ended up running AN fuel lines like this is because, well, because I shortened the frame, I can't get pre-bent hard lines, so I was gonna have to do all new lines up to the fitting anyways. And this just eliminates hose clamps on most of the system. There's still a little bit in the valley and stuff that if I have problems with later on, I'll try and convert all that shit to AN stuff. But I know there are kits to do that, so that won't be that big of a deal. Okay guys, so I'm getting ready to paint my first round. So I'm getting ready to paint my first round. Basically all I'm doing this round is the stuff that once the pickup's assembled is difficult to paint. So like the firewall, the underside, basically everything in the engine bay, then the back of the cab, in the front of the pickup box. I mixed up a batch of epoxy primer, just a small one to come in, so I can do some touch-ups on stuff like this where the metal's coming through. This is from welding on it after it's already been in primer. Put this on, or welded in my plate for covering up the holes all the way around. I still got to do the sides obviously, but the front has to be done now because of, well, this stuff. The other sides doesn't come out because it's the external sheet, so when I weld that it won't leave marks. So yeah, we're just about ready. Got to wipe everything down with wax and grease remover yet. I did spray it down and give it a quick wipe down to get the majority of this stuff off. Alright, so obviously my first step is going to be spraying the epoxy, just touching up the spots that I sanded too far and got some metal showing through. Once that's done, come in with full base, and this is like lime rock green metallic, like the Corvettes have, or like my 2014 half-ton was. It's that nice metallic dark green. So we'll be spraying 2 or 3 coats of this, depending on how the coverage goes. Once I get done with my final coat, I come back and I just lightly mist on the top coat to get the metallic to lay right. Hopefully everything goes well. Never sprayed metallic before, but anyways, once that's done, I think I gotta wait 15 minutes or so, then I can come in and do the clear coat on top. Okay, so it's the day after spraying the, putting down the paint. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. A little bit of mess ups, you can see I got runs in there. The rest of it turned out pretty good. Pretty happy with how it all turned out. There is a little bit of splotchiness to it that I'll have to figure out when I go to spray the rest of it. When I was spraying it, the fan pattern on the gun, it was pretty heavy in the middle and really light on the outer edges. I'm gonna try and figure out a way to get that a little more even, so when I'm doing it, it's spread out a little better. And try to avoid the striping effect. See if I can. It's kind of hard to pick up on camera, but this light's supposed to replicate what it would look like in the sunlight. And you can kind of see. Here's a spot. You can kind of see some stripes in there. I think I probably should have done one more coat. I have to get more paint, 'cause I don't think I have enough to do everything after doing this and how much I use to get good coverage. Firewall turned out pretty good, other than a little bit down. Didn't get very good coverage down there, but that's getting covered up with a firewall heat shield, so this is good enough for where it's at. Alright, so I decided to put a door on and hang the fender just because I wanted to see what it's going to look like with everything mostly one color for once. And test out the new toy, my inflatable paint booth. Okay, so we finally got this thing blown up after a bit of a struggle. You definitely have to have it folded out all the way and have some weight on these pillars. I should have something on each one, but I don't right now. I'll have to come up with something for the next time. But anyways, this thing is freaking huge. I think the outside dimensions on this thing are 16.5 by 36. I think it's 16.5 tall, or no, I don't remember what it is how tall. I'll have to look it up, but I'll link it down in the description so you guys can check it out. Come up front. Here's the prep room, and I think, yeah. So you pull this Velcro back here, and this will vent. Once this is all sealed up, there's another fan that blows air in here, and this will vent, filter air coming in. And then once we have everything sealed up with this door, there's two Velcro panels on the other sides of these as well that you can, that'll push the air out. Got everything masked off, wheels are covered, box head's covered. I'm not doing any of the exterior right now. It's gonna just be the interior and the door jamb. Okay, so as you can see, we got the pickup out of the booth taken down. All the interior is done. Everything went fairly smoothly. The only mishap I had was on the dash here. On the corners, it didn't quite get enough clear coat into this area here. So I ended up having to respray this with clear coat. And I've just been wet sanding and polishing out the stuff in the cab here. I got it all set up. Added some lights in here this time. They're just some cheap T5 things I bought off of Amazon, LED. Actually worked pretty decent for this. But in the future, I think I'm just gonna buy some LED rope lights and run them through all these loops. Should light it up pretty good in here. Then I got a couple of work lights on the outside. Got the clean room all set up. Ready to mix everything over here on this table. We've got other supplies over here. So this kit came with two blowers. Oh, here. We got one little one This one is actually supposed to inflate the whole thing, but it can't hold it up even after it's inflated. So I got the big one on that, the little one on the ventilation system. The last time it didn't quite do a good enough job blowing everything out. It got really hazy in the paint booth area. So ended up, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I took my big shop fan, put it in here. So when I zip all this up, it should pressurize it and push it out and help. Hopefully. Yeah, I think before I use this again next time, I'll end up buying another big blower for that. Yeah. We're ready to sweep the floor in here and bring the pickup in. We got it out of the paint booth. Turned out pretty good. There's a lot of orange peel to it, but I'm gonna come in with a denim buffing pad and some heavy cut compound. It should knock it down, and then I can just do a regular buff job after that. I tried it with a stiff foam pad here, and it worked a little bit, but the denim pad's supposed to be a lot faster at it, so I'm gonna give that a try. And it did knock down. Well, there's a little bit of a haziness. I don't know if you can feel it. You can kind of see it on this back panel right here. And I think it's just because there wasn't enough ventilation in the paint booth, because when I'm spraying the clear coat, it just ends up, it's like a cloud in there basically. So I'm thinking that's what kind of causes a little bit of a haziness after it's done. If you can see it on the hood a little bit. Just got some patches where the clear is a little foggy. So, quick buff job. This thing should be good enough for a farm truck anyways. So with the bed liner done here, rolled it a little, did the bed rails and rolled it down just a little bit along the box side and the tailgate here. Pretty happy with how it turned out. I still got to go in with a brush and do right up in the corner here. I don't know if it'll, couldn't quite reach in here with the gun, so I ended up a little light. I have to hit that with a brush. Alright, so I used the 8-quart kit from Raptor Liner that came with the gun and everything. And I ended up with, I did 2 heavy coats. Oh, that stuff hardened overnight, it looks like. But I basically just have this one on-mix quart left, and well, I think there's only about that much left in there. This one, I was planning on spraying 3 coats, but I don't know if I sprayed it on too thick or what. From everything I had read online, this should have been more than enough to do 3 coats on a long box pickup. But ended up with just 2 coats. Getting this thing ready to go do a test drive with it, and realized I hadn't done anything with the differential oils yet, and this slid right out of the rear end. Good thing I checked it, because this is all that came out. Should probably pull the cover and see what it looks like, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to fill her back up and see what happens. long time since I posted an update for the 67, like probably 4 months now, I don't know. But anyways, this thing is pretty much done. I didn't film a lot of the finishing stuff because I wanted to go to a car show with it, so basically the entire interior I did in like a week and a half, just busting ass on it, and didn't film any of it this summer. And then I did have a bunch of stuff on my phone from taking it on some trips and doing car shows with it, and then my phone decided to do a factory reset, and I lost all of that. So we're just gonna do an update here. So yeah, this is how it sits this winter. Go around the passenger side, I think it's easier to get in. I think I went to 3 car shows with it this summer. We got the new door handles finished up, or the door latches finished up. The TMI panels all installed. We've got the power seats and everything are now working in here. Vintage air system is all set up in here. Custom center console build. I know I have some of that filmed. All right, so let's try this one more time. And since my camera was in the time-lapse mode, I'm really struggling with operating the new GoPro. Anyways, the interior here, we got the back wall done. Mostly. Still got to hook up these clips here. And these are just, I actually got these off of an RV website. They're the cushion clips for the booth cushions is what they were classified as on there. Anyways, yeah, the middle here to kind of hide everything after having to do the cutout for the subwoofer there. It's just some carpet stapled on there from, I just cut up the piece that would normally go behind the fuel tank from the TMI kit. Yeah, pretty happy with how this is turning out. Still got to put, this will get a strip of vinyl across the bottom, but it's gonna be the last thing that I cut out of the vinyl because I want to make sure I have enough for the center console yet. Which, come over here, it's fully wrapped in the pink foam, ready to put the leather on. As you can see, I made the front of the armrest area here, and all I did is stack 4 pieces of 3/4 inch MDF. So I cut 4 rectangle pieces and then did the contour to fit around this piece here, stacked them all up, glued them together. Then I went ahead and cut this contour out and fine-tuned it with the not the cutoff wheel, flat disc on the grinder there to get it to follow the curve just right. And then once that was done, I was able to mock everything up. And I took and traced with a pencil all the way around the corners here and then just straight across and made the curves, and then used the table saw, or using the bandsaw, I cut all the way around, and then I took the table saw and just ran it through the blade along the front edge here to thin that out and get the nice contour that I wanted. And then wrapped in foam and vinyl. Some of that filmed, but this is all built out of MDF, and then I used the lid from the center console flip up seat from the O2. Just use the top portion of it. Built Specialties steering wheel, and of course best mod by far is the foot pedal there. I don't know how much of the dash and stuff I filmed, but we got all the switches and everything mounted in here. The 1 gauge is kind of working. I still need to get that programmed a little bit. I had a heck of a time getting window wipers to work in here. I ended up using the Detroit Speed and Engineering kit and just didn't even try to adapt it to this switch because I was failing miserably at that. Let's get this flipped. You can see the back wall. This is all made out of MDF again. This is just 1/4 inch plywood that I curved around a skeleton board, and then basically just used some filler, filled all the kerfing marks in, and then I put foam and matching TMI vinyl on it. This is a struggle one-handed. Here is the amp rack in the back here. So I got a JL Audio 4300 running my speakers here, and the speakers in the front of the center console there. And then over there I have an American Bass 2000 watt amplifier and a 10 inch subwoofer from American Bass in the back of the center console there. So yeah, she hits pretty hard. If we pop the hood, there's been a few updates that I did this summer that I don't think I filmed. If you notice, everything is now painted this same bronze color that I've been using. And then obviously there is some dress up going on under here. I was having issues with the AC not keeping it cool, or not keeping up with it at idle, so I added that fan shroud there, and I actually made that out of a freezer lid and some old tank straps welded to it. We made a little brake reservoir cover that is also made out of, you guessed it, an old freezer lid. And then last but not least, I did the radiator cowl cover thing here, and you guessed it, that is also made out of a freezer lid. Should plug some BNCO stuff here because I don't think I had any of that installed in any of my previous videos. But we have their grill insert, which is probably my favorite piece from them. I do have a bow tie to put on from them yet, but I haven't done it yet. I got to polish and paint that out. We got custom Duramax badges here to look like the K20 logo, made from them. Then they're raw machined when you get them from them, so I sanded and polished out all this myself and then painted in this stuff. And that's the bronze and then green again. Then I also have the BNCO billet door handles, and I really like these things. They look nice and sleek, they're beefy. Alright guys, thank you for watching. That is the entire build of the 67 from the beginning to end, at least of what I have on YouTube and what I recorded. I really appreciate you guys sticking around this long and watching all of that. There will be another video, like just a build breakdown type video coming, but I would like to get it all cleaned up before I do that. And currently, Mother Nature is not being very cooperative, as there is about 18 inches of snow in my yard, and it's still coming down. So when it decides to be springtime again, I will get the pickup out, get it all cleaned up, and there will be a build breakdown video coming. Alright, so on top 7, I should have the first big build update for the 1972 K5 Blazer that I am also Duramax swapping. Should be coming out pretty soon. I'm going to start editing that after this video. But yeah, until then, feel free to check my link tree down below. There is a merch link in there for this type of stuff, some random Amazon links to my most asked about parts and whatnot, as well as a JAGS link. And basically I have partnered up with JAGS through my TikTok account and Instagram account and whatnot, and now YouTube. And I will be doing tool reviews on stuff that they send me. So if you want to see more of that, be sure to use the JAGS link. It basically just takes you to JAGS, but it lets you know that you clicked on it through me, and basically just lets them know that it's working. And if I get enough traction through that, I will be able to do more tool reviews for you guys. So stay tuned for them as well. Until then, enjoy some more drone footage.